My name is Brooke Walker. I'm 22 years old, and until last night I thought I understood what love looked like. I thought it came in the form of sacrifice, of showing up, of staying quiet and steady. I thought that if I gave enough time, energy, forgiveness, then one day, someone would look at me and finally see me. Last night, I stood in a fully decorated apartment, filled with fairy lights, carefully arranged food, a DJ in the corner, and a cake I'd baked myself from scratch. I spent 4 months organizing my younger sister Chloe's sweet 16. I worked overtime, skipped lunches, stayed up until 2 a.m., frosting cookies and writing out seating charts. I did it all because I honestly believed, that this party would be the moment she saw how much she meant to me. At 6 o'clock, everything was ready. I was wearing my best navy blue dress, the one Greg used to say brought out my eyes. I checked my phone. No messages, no calls. I told myself they were running late. By 7:30, I had refreshed Instagram 10 times. Still nothing. Just me, and Alice, the young DJ I hired, quietly adjusting his equipment in the corner. Finally, I called. First Chloe, voicemail. Then Mom. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice was bright, cheerful. Oh honey, meant to call you. We're on our way to Canada. Chloe really wanted something special, and we figured you love planning things so much, it would be good for you. I hung up without saying goodbye. My phone slid out of my hand and hit the floor. I stood there staring at the cake, the flickering lights, the wrapped gift on the table. This wasn't a party. It was a goodbye. I just hadn't realized I was the one being left behind. I used to think being the oldest meant I had to be the strongest, that if I kept everything together, kept everyone happy, then maybe, just maybe, I would matter too. When Chloe was born, I was 6 years old. I remember thinking she looked like a doll. I used to sneak into her room in the mornings just to watch her sleep. Her tiny fists would wave in the air like she was conducting some invisible orchestra. And when she saw me, she'd giggle, this bright, pure laugh that made Mom smile for the first time in weeks. That sound was magic. I didn't know it then, but I had already signed up for a role I would never get to leave. By 10, I had memorized every line of Be a Good Example. I gave up things before anyone asked: my seat at the table, my last cookie, my after-school playdates. It was just what you did when you were the big sister. At 12, I wanted to join the school's art club. I was so excited I came home with the permission slip in hand. But Mom barely looked up from the kitchen sink. That's the same time Chloe needs to be picked up from dance, she said. You'll have to let it go. Family first. She tossed me the car keys even though I wasn't old enough to drive. I nodded, because that's what big girls do. By high school, the pattern was fully set. Chloe needed braces, we cut the grocery budget. Chloe needed a tutor, I took a job bagging groceries. Chloe needed new cleats, I wore the same shoes all senior year. I didn't resent her. I really didn't. I told myself this was what love looked like. That one day, when I was older, I'd get my turn. I'd go to college, travel, start fresh. But college never happened the way I imagined. I applied to a few places out of state, but Mom said it was too far. What if something happens to Chloe? Dad reminded me, so I went to community college. I lived at home. I juggled classes, Chloe's schedule, and 2 part-time jobs. I told myself it was fine, that being close to family mattered, that Chloe was worth it. And maybe she was. But somewhere along the way I stopped being a person and became a role, a function. The one who gave, the one who solved, the one who stayed. And when people get used to you always being there, always picking up the slack, they stop asking if you're okay. They stop wondering what you want. They stop seeing you at all. There was a time I thought love would save me, that if I just found the right person, someone who saw me not as the background character, not as the reliable one, but as Brooke, then everything would fall into place. That person, I thought, was Greg. Greg wasn't dramatic. He didn't sweep me off my feet or write poetry or promise the moon. But he was kind, steady. He brought me soup when I had the flu and fixed the leaky faucet in my apartment without me asking. He made spreadsheets for everything: vacation budgets, grocery lists, even potential baby names. For a while, I let myself imagine the life he wanted. House in the suburbs, 2 kids, matching pajama sets at Christmas. He said I'd make a great mom because I was responsible, because I always thought ahead, because I took care of people. But the thing about being loved for what you do instead of who you are is that eventually, it stops feeling like love. Greg didn't understand why I stared out the window like it meant something, why I still kept my guitar under the bed. Why I wrote little poems in the Notes app on my phone and never showed them to anyone. "You're always halfway somewhere else," he told me once. I smiled like it was a compliment. He left on a rainy Thursday, the kind that soaks through your socks and makes everything feel a little heavier. He packed his things, kissed my forehead, and said, "You don't belong here, Brooke. You're just too scared to leave." And he wasn't wrong. So when Mom asked if I'd planned Chloe's Sweet 16, I said yes before she even finished the sentence. I needed something to pour myself into, something that would make me feel like I mattered again. I told myself this party would be different. That maybe if I made it beautiful enough, thoughtful enough, perfect enough, then Chloe would look at me the way she used to when she was little, like I was someone worth admiring. I found the gold locket at an estate sale 2 towns over. It wasn't expensive, but it felt right. Inside, I placed a photo of the 2 of us from the day she was born. I was holding her, smiling so big it almost hurt. I barely recognized that girl anymore. I wrapped it carefully, folded the corners just right, wrote a card I must have rewritten 10 times. I wasn't trying to buy her love. I was trying to remind her and maybe myself that love, real love, shows up. But I was wrong. Love doesn't always show up, especially when people start to believe you'll keep giving, no matter what. By 5:30 that evening, everything was in place. The folding tables were covered in second-hand lace tablecloths I'd carefully ironed the night before. The food sliders, pasta salad, mini quiches, 3 kinds of cookies was laid out like a buffet from a magazine spread. The fairy lights twinkled gently, casting soft shadows on the walls. The cake, topped with delicate roses I'd piped myself, sat proudly in the center. And me? I wore my best dress. Navy blue, a little worn at the sleeves, but it still made me feel presentable. I had even painted my nails the night before, something soft and pearly, hopeful in a way that now made me feel naive. 6 p.m. I stood near the front door, phone in hand, heart quiet but expectant. Any minute now, I thought. Laughter, car doors, heels on pavement, teenagers spilling into the room with music and light. 6:30. I checked Instagram. Nothing. No updates. No group selfies. No on our way. Messages. Alice, the DJ, shuffled awkwardly behind his equipment. "You want me to start playing something? Warm-up vibes?" "Sure," I said, trying to sound like this was all part of the plan. Music filled the room. Something upbeat, something synthetic and bright, but it bounced strangely against the silence, like it didn't belong here. I checked the street again. Empty. 7. I started to worry not just about the party, but about what it meant. Still, I waited. 7:30. That's when I made the calls. Chloe first. Voicemail. Then Mom. She picked up on the second ring, cheerful as if I'd just asked what she was having for dinner. "We're heading to Canada," she chirped. Chloe really wanted something memorable, and we figured, well, you love organizing things. This gave you something to do. I didn't respond. I couldn't. They weren't coming. They never planned to. I stood in that empty room, music playing to no one, and realized I hadn't just planned a party. I had planned a goodbye. I just hadn't known it was for me. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't flip the tables, or scream into a pillow, or send angry texts I'd regret in the morning. I didn't do any of the things a person might do after being humiliated, forgotten, erased. I just sat there. The music had stopped. Alice had packed up without a word, giving me a sad, sympathetic look on his way out. I thanked him quietly and locked the door behind him. I blew out the candles on the cake one by one, watching the smoke rise in soft spirals. The frosting had started to melt. One of the fairy lights had already gone dark. The silence was so complete, it felt like a decision. At 9 p.m., I curled up on the floor, still in my dress, hugging my knees to my chest. Across the room sat the locket, wrapped in cream paper and tied with a gold ribbon. It looked like it was waiting, like it still believed something good was going to happen. But I knew better. It was strange how calm I felt, not numb, not even angry, just done. There was a kind of clarity in the stillness, like watching a curtain fall after the final scene of a play you didn't realize had ended. This wasn't about one party. It never was. It was about every birthday I made special for someone else, but never celebrated myself. Every night I drove Chloe across town and waited in the car, because it was easier that way. Every dream I'd shelved. Every decision I made through the lens of what does the family need. I thought if I kept giving, someone would eventually say, "You've done enough. Let us take care of you now." But that day never came. And sitting there, alone in that quiet apartment, I finally accepted the truth. It wasn't going to. The love I had been hoping to earn through loyalty, sacrifice, perfection, it was never going to arrive. Because to them, I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was a service. A silent, dependable presence meant to fill in the cracks. And the moment I stopped being useful, I stopped being seen. So no, I didn't cry. I just lay there and listened to the soft hum of the fairy lights, feeling something in me settle. I didn't know what came next. But I knew one thing for sure. Whatever it was, it wouldn't be for them. The next morning, the apartment still smelled like frosting and disappointment. I stood in the center of the room, barefoot, arms crossed, staring at the decorations that now looked ridiculous. Streamers sagging, confetti on the floor, a centerpiece that might have impressed someone if anyone had shown up. And yet, I didn't feel shattered. I felt finished. It was like a switch flipped, not out of rage, out of clarity. By 10 a.m., I had opened my laptop and started canceling things. First, the apartment. My landlord was a grumpy old man who didn't care about contracts as long as he got cash. I slid $200 extra across the counter. He barely looked at me as he said, "Out by the weekend." Done. Next, my job. I walked into the insurance office where I had spent the last year filing paperwork and answering phones with a smile so automatic it no longer felt like mine. I handed my resignation to my manager, who blinked at it like I'd handed him a resignation from reality. "You're just quitting?" he stammered, without notice. "Yes," I said, effective immediately. "But what about your future here?" "I'm building one somewhere else." He called it burning bridges. I called it lighting a new path. By noon, I was home with coffee in hand and a one-way ticket to France sitting open on my screen. I had stared at that confirmation page for hours the night before. The blinking cursor next to the purchase button had felt like a heartbeat. That morning, I clicked it. In 2 weeks, I'd be gone. Not just from the apartment, not just from the city, from all of it. All that was left to do was say goodbye, on my terms. I picked up Chloe's gift, the locket, still wrapped, still beautiful in its own quiet way, and drove to my parents' house. The road there was familiar in the worst way. The same streets I had driven for Sai, the same cracked sidewalk, the same porch light with the spare key tucked behind it. They had never changed the key. They never thought I'd leave. Inside, everything was the same. Same sofa, same family photos, Chloe in every frame, from baby steps to prom. Me barely visible, background noise. I walked upstairs to Chloe's room. It was bigger than my entire apartment. String lights, expensive perfumes, a vision board of college dreams I had once tried to fund. I set the gift down on her desk. On top, I left a letter. It was short, honest. "This is the last thing I'll ever give you. I'm not paying for college. I'm not staying. I wish you well." That was it. No lecture, no guilt, no drama. Just the truth. Then I turned, walked out, locked the door behind me, and dropped the key through the mail slot. And I didn't look back. I had barely made it back to my apartment before the phone started ringing. First Mom, then Dad, then Chloe, one call after another piling on top of each other like an avalanche. Then came the texts. "What is wrong with you? You can't just disappear. Fix this. You're overreacting." I didn't respond. I didn't even open most of them. I just sat at the kitchen table, sipping cold coffee and staring at my boarding pass like it was a doorway. My flight was in 13 days. The countdown had started. At 5:02 p.m., someone pounded on the door. I didn't need to look through the peephole to know who it was. I opened it. Mom was standing there, wild-eyed, her phone clutched in one hand like it could protect her. Dad loomed behind her, arms folded, his jaw tight. Chloe lingered a few steps back, mascara smudged, looking more furious than hurt. "You can't be serious," Mom snapped. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "I'm serious." "You quit your job?" Dad demanded. I nodded. "Yes, want to see the resignation receipt." Mom's voice cracked. "And you bought a plane ticket?" "One way, France." For a moment, no one spoke. They stared at me like I'd lost my mind, but I had never felt more sane. Then Chloe stepped forward. "You're ruining everything," she spat. I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilt or duty. or that aching need to make things right. I just felt free. You said you wanted something special, I said quietly. So did I. You're abandoning your family, Mom hissed. No, I said. I'm just choosing myself. For once. Dad scoffed. After all we've done for you. I smiled, small, sharp, exactly. And then I closed the door. Not with anger. Not with revenge. But with peace. Because sometimes the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. The silence that followed was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. No buzzing phone, no demands, no guilt-laced reminders, just me in my tiny apartment sitting at the edge of a new life. For the first time in years, I wasn't planning around anyone else's needs. I wasn't calculating how to make someone else's dreams come true while burying my own. I wasn't staying because I was afraid. I was leaving because I finally understood something simple, something profound. I was allowed to. It's strange how heavy freedom feels at first. Not because it's a burden, but because it has weight. The weight of choice, of truth, of no longer apologizing for existing. In 13 days, I'll board that plane. I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't have anyone waiting on the other side. I don't even know if I'll like France. But I'll be there. And I'll be mine. To anyone listening, anyone who's ever felt invisible in their own family, who's given everything, and still been made to feel like it wasn't enough, I want you to hear this. You are not selfish for stepping away. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. You are not wrong for choosing yourself. Love should never require you to disappear. So choose yourself, even if your voice shakes, even if no one claps when you do. Sometimes, the bravest thing you'll ever do is quietly walk away from everything that never truly saw you. And sometimes, that's when your life finally begins. So if this story resonated with you, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because sometimes healing doesn't come with an apology, it comes with a departure.